My name is Mark Davis Stallard. This is Ryan Janz with me. We're two guys fixing the world. And we are actually going to move on and we're going to continue on the general topic. What the Manitoba government is trying to rush through the legislature right now. So same topic, kind of different things. So while we're in a panic mode, I'm going to outline what's going on there. So the three main parties in Manitoba, which is the Progressive Conservatives, the NDP, and the Liberals, are all have agreed to meet to pass COVID-19 related legislation. Of course, the Progressive Conservatives want to also squeeze through 8 or 9, I've written it down, 8 or 9 other pieces of non-emergency legislation as well. Let me see if I can quickly outline what those are. EU has 8 pre-existing bills. So part of that includes temporary to close the public hearings on Manitoba hydro rates, which is actually controlled by the public, a third-party watchdog, and they want to close that for several years, but it'll be temporary, like all temporary laws ever end. Of course they don't. Now, to put that into perspective, last time there was a rate hike, the government wanted to raise it to 7.9% increase, but it ended up the watchdog said no, and it went out to like 3 something percent, right? Just to give you an idea. So we save a lot of money by looking after itself. And the side point as well is that the current government has been taking the money from Manitoba Hydro, which is our electric company, by the way, not the water company, for those of you who are not familiar with that. I still have trouble with that. And they're taking the money, which is supposed to be self-sustaining, and they're taking some of the profits and giving it to other parts of government funding, which they're not supposed to be able to do. So that's why they like to hike up the prices. While they're cutting taxes, they hike up the electric price. So that's one of the things.
Okay, so they want to transition the annual Public Utility Board hearings into a multi-year process, which would save taxpayers money. I doubt that. It probably looks like we're saving money, but by changing something mid-stride, it always costs more money to shut it down and to restart it up again, rather than just going through with what you already had. Yeah. So if you already spent, if your budget was $1 million and you spent $250,000 or $500,000, half your budget, and you decide to pull out, you've only saved the money that you haven't spent. Right? There's no way to recoup the money that you have spent. So you might as well just see it through and live out your budget. It just doesn't make sense to transition into a multi-year process. And even when you think about that seems counterintuitive as to what Progressive Conservatives really would want. Public Utility Board hearing, wouldn't you want that over and finished quickly? That would be the easiest, the most way to save. Multi-year process, coming back and revisiting issues or agenda A, B, C, D over 5 or 6 or 7 years. That just seems like it would cost loads more money in the long run.
Well, for us, for those of us paying,
yeah. And the problem is it's a Public Utilities Board. So guess where they're going to get the money to pay for these hearings? It's going to come out of you and me. So whatever we save up front by doing this multi-year thing, we're going to lose on rates to increase on the public utilities, right? So it really isn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
In fact, it's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah, for sure. The NDP is also concerned that legislation that would give the government-appointed adjudicators the final say over building and occupancy permit disputes. Something the government needs is more power, and let alone the last word. And now, I'll not say that any of this legislation is necessarily bad. It could be good legislation if it's written well, and if there are numbers around it. But the thing is, it's being rushed through, and there's no time to debate it and to dig into it. And
that part, I would agree. That statement is 100% correct. I is concerned about legislation that would give government-appointed adjudicators, well, government appointed adjudicators already have the final say over whether a building occupancy permit in disputes, whether that's municipal, provincial, or federal, depending on which jurisdiction your building inhabits. Generally, the way those authorities having jurisdiction work this way through is usually the city, even if it's a federal building, it still has to adhere to local and provincial building standards and could be subject to federal standards depending on the type of building. So for instance, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. I'm trying not to be too technical here. I work in the fire and life safety business. In Manitoba, we use CAN-ULC S536 as our inspection standard, and that's based on the 2004 version of that particular piece of code, which has been legislated. That's how we're to inspect and do stuff in fire alarm. The latest version is 2013. So in Manitoba, we have decided, the Office of the Fire Commissioner, in conjunction with the City of Winnipeg, the City of Brandon, all the major cities and AHJs have adopted the 2004 standard as law. But if you have a federal building within any of those jurisdictions that's owned federally, it is subject to the 2013 standard. Now, there actually isn't really a whole lot of changes between the two standards. There's some verbiage changes and a few things here, but overall, they basically say the same thing. But that's kind of, they already have the final say. If there's permit disputes and it's because you haven't pulled a permit or you didn't operate within the permit, they have the right and should have the right to not let you occupy your building because it could be unsafe. You could have done something improperly in the building process. There's reasons that they have that those entities exist. Now, whether they're, I don't know what the legislation is. It could just be refining powers. It could be defining them better. It could be saying that, who knows? I haven't read the legislation. So I don't know if that necessarily is a bad thing.
Right. And that's Rob Canoe, who's the leader of the NDP. I know you know Ryan, but other people in different countries won't know that. That's the provincial government. Which is very similar, I guess, in some ways to the state government, if you follow US politics at all. Probably not a exact, but there's a good simile. He was concerned by the omnibus bills in the budgets that's being pushed by the current progressive conservative government, and rightly so. There have been a lot of to get the budget through. You need to put the budget through so the government can function. So the money can get allotted to the right places, and because you bundle all these other bills that are not related to finance at all, and they all get passed as a single piece, rather than judging each piece of legislation on its own merits. You've got to judge it based on this money's got to move.
All of it.
Yeah, and it's almost all as one, and then you start amending it. It becomes a nightmare. And in this particular case, for this set of legislation, they haven't at the time the article had reached the press there as a few days ago. They had not, the opposition parties had not seen the legislation. So they haven't even had a chance to kind of look through it. It'll be read, and they're not going to be able to have a preview. And then they want to do this in a matter of days. So that's the big thing. They want to rush it through 1, 2, 3 days, which the COVID stuff, it needs to be decided now, right? It's an emergency. We need that now. I don't think we need to worry about the increase in price on hydro now. Let's leave it as it is for a little while until things are calm.
And you see, the thing is, I think I can already sort of predict why they're trying to go with this whole hydro thing. They're wanting to, I mean, let's call it a spade here. Like, it's going to cost money, and it's going to be very costly. Everybody's economy is going to suffer. We're not unique to that. Certain industries here might bounce back faster, but everybody's hurting because of the COVID outbreak. End of story. And it's going to cost money. And that means we're probably not going to run at a balanced budget for the next 4 or 5 years. We're probably going to be paying this off for a long time. But the difference is when you offer those services, you have a population that can bounce back. You have people who aren't going bankrupt. You have people who are being fed. There's childcare spaces.
No, we can
all
talk
these
about
things, right?
No, we can talk about government. We can talk about government debts in another show. It's nowhere near as bad as it's made out at all. It is not a scary place to have for the government to have debt. It's scary for me and you to have debt because we can't tax. We can't invite new people into our house and tax them over several generations, right? And when actually, well, I'm going to start ranting about. I'm going to rant about this. This is not the show for this one.
Right. That's a great. Two guys will fix the debt later, or the debt.
Yes.
Debt deficit.
Yeah. Whatever. We'll figure out a title. This is the back door to the Manitoba legislature. Now, if you hit the subscribe button now, hit the notification bell, then you won't be surprised when they try to stick something up your back door.